Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this September regular meeting of the Quorum Court to order and welcome everyone in attendance. The prayer and the pledge is going to be handled by J.P. Rick Cochran. J.P. Cochran.
Father, we come to you this evening, and we ask the Holy Spirit to be with us, help us guide us in the decisions we must make tonight. They affect our citizens of Washington County, our employees of Washington County. We ask you for the wisdom and discernment to make the proper decisions. Father, we also want to lift up our fellow JP, Harvey Bowman, in his recovery, and Robert Dennis's wife. I understand we need their prayers for them to go out tonight. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, J.P. Cochran. Next thing we have is roll call. Harley, we ready for the roll call?
Daniel Balls. Here. Harvey Bowman. Rick Cochran. Here. Robert Dennis. Lisa Ecke. Here. Ann Harbison. Here. Sharon Lloyd. Tom Lundstrom.
Here.
Eva Madison. Here. Sue Madison. Joe Maxwell. Gary McHenry.
Here.
Joe Patterson. Here. Butch Pond. Here. Bill Ussery. Here.
Quorum present. Next thing you have is adoption of the agenda. We've got a couple or three changes to make before we will adopt this. First, I'm going to recognize J.P. Madison for her correction, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Judge. I would ask that we remove, make sure I get the numbers right, number 22 and 23, the interlocals. The county attorney has asked me to delay those. He's still working on them. So.
Do we need to vote on to move that now, or do we just need to go and adopt the whole agenda at the same time?
Well, we'll probably need to go ahead and vote on that.
Okay.
Yeah, and
okay.
I think we also, don't we need to take off the minutes because there aren't minutes? So
okay.
we can take off 6, 22, and 23.
Okay. Okay. J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. Item 10, since we have a very lengthy agenda tonight, item 10, could we move it to our next regularly scheduled budget and finance meeting?
We can do this with a vote of our court. So
okay.
Any other changes to the agenda? Now, you're going to pick yours up later on, or do you want to go ahead and...
Or you can do it now.
Yeah, you can do it now.
Madam Judge, was that a motion that we need to vote on the changes to the... You want me to do that all at once?
We will need a motion to make the changes all at once. So.
Well, then I move that we adopt the changes suggested by, requested by J.P. Cochran and J.P. Eva Madison.
Second.
And also that we suspend the rules and read the ordinances by title only, with the resolution being read in full.
Okay, second. Thank you. Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? Any discussion? Carly, call the roll, please.
Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis. Lisa Ecke. Yes. Ann Harbison. Yes. Sharon Lloyd. Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison. Yes. Joe Maxwell. Gary McHenry.
Yes.
Joe Patterson. Yes. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
The agenda is adopted with the changes. Thank you. Next thing, as we're going to go ahead and have citizens' comments, we've kind of changed the rules over the last three meetings. So we will have a 15-minute period for citizens' comments. Each person which wishes to speak will have 3 minutes each. So I'm going to recognize the first person who would like to make a comment to the court. Please come forward, give us your name, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
My name's David Ruff. I live in Prairie Grove, Arkansas. Ladies and gentlemen of this court, members of the audience, Washington County residents, employees of Washington County, we have a member of this court that seemed to went to the radio station and called the employees of this county lazy, beggars with their hands out, and went on to say if you didn't like the pay that this county offered, you should move on. I think that's deplorable. That's wrong. The employees, I've heard it many times on this court, are the most valuable asset that this county has. So, with that being said, I ask that the member that went to the radio station and said these comments to respectfully return in your resignation to the judge and take yourself off this court, because you're a detriment to this county and to the employees of this county. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I was not aware of that. Do we have recognize anyone else that would like to make a comment? Thank you, folks, very much. We've got a very, very lengthy agenda. We're going to try to do our very best to get through it at a reasonable time so you can all go home to your families. Thank you all for coming. I think myself and the court's very delighted to have you here. We'll proceed. Thank you very much. Next thing I have, we did not get the minutes sent out, so we made a motion in the agenda adjustments to not do anything on the minutes until the next meeting. Next thing we have is number 7. That's going to be a resolution by Rick Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. Will you read the resolution,
Yes.
please, George?
It's a resolution recommending changes to the county's employee health insurance plan for 2017. Whereas the county has a self-funded health insurance plan offered to employees and their families, and whereas in order to keep the insurance fund solvent, the county's insurance consultant, Nelson Driver, reviews the fund and makes recommendations regarding such, and whereas due to the increasing cost of health care and the number of insurance claims, it is the recommendation of the insurance consultant that changes be made in the employee health plan for 2017. And whereas ordinarily amendments to the insurance plan are an administrative function of the county judge, he has asked for a recommendation from the Quorum Court regarding such. Now therefore be resolved by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, Article 1, that the Quorum Court recommends to the county judge that the employee health insurance plan for 2017 be changed as follows. 1, that the current deductible of $345 per calendar year be raised to $500 for individuals and $1,000 for families. 2, that the current prescription copay amounts be increased from $10.30.55 to $15.35.60. 3, that the in-network out-of-pocket threshold for individuals and families be raised from $1,000 to $3,000. 4, that 3-month carryover provision wherein the last 3 months of the year does not carry over into the next year be eliminated. 5, that the primary care physician copay amount be raised from the current $25 to $30. Employee and dependents on the county's insurance will continue to have the option to go to IMWell and or UMS for express health care with no copay required. 6, that the premiums paid by the employees shall remain the same. 7, that the county contribution be raised from $411 to $466 per month per position. Therefore, the retirees' premium shall be raised accordingly.
Thank you, George. We've had several revisions on this, and I would like to have Nelson Driver come and speak with us, if you would. Quick question, Nelson. The item 7.3, which I don't know if you have a packet, I think is the original recommendation that you had made, which did include changes to premiums for the employees.
Yes.
And there's some differences highlighted here in this new version that George has read, in a difference between the individual deductibles and the out-of-pocket for individuals and families changed. Can you speak to the changes that they made in the most recent version?
Well, the most recent version was an attempt to lessen the overall impact on the employees. The original version, 7.3, that came before the court a while back, I can't remember, 3 months ago, I guess, called for no increase on the county's portion. 7.1 includes an increase on the county's portion to the plan, which will lessen the impact. It also, the original 7.3 took the deductible to $1,000 instead of $500 per calendar year per person. In-network out-of-pocket would have gone from $1,000 to $6,000, and of course this one reduces that significantly. Less of an overall financial burden on the employees and their families for Washington County. The rest of it, pretty much remains the same as far as the increases in prescription copays and the in-network physician visits.
Okay, you and I have talked about this insurance plan off and on for several years now.
Yes.
And we finally got to the point where we have to make the change. One of the discussions that you and I have had on the differences between 7.1 and 7.3 is whether we pay for the employee side a little bit more, which has an effect of giving them I guess what you want to call a pre-taxed effect in a sense, where if you raise the employee's salary for $1 and he's taxed on it a little bit, then he's got 65, 70 cents to come over and pay for his health insurance premium. Whereas if we come up under and take care of it on the county side, we get a full dollar's worth there.
Right.
I guess the downside to that, if there is one, is that it tends to suppress the wages of the employee, which tends to suppress the retirement income for the employee, and that is my concern. I realize that the 7.3 draft that you initially proposed does have an increase in premiums for the employees, and we're looking at a fairly good increase in wages for this year that will more than offset this. Personally, I favor 7.3, but your comment about the versions 7.3 and 7.1 has duly noted that both of those changes to our plan bring us up into very competitive, if not in the top rung of our local comparatives as far as cities and counties go. So,
actually, from a comparative standpoint, the $1,000 deductible per person deductible is right at market. Going from the current $345 up to $500 will put our deductible still significantly lower than any other organization in our peer group. The pay raise part of this thing and offsetting, giving a pay raise on one side but having to increase health insurance cost or whatever cost on the other side. The point I would try to make there is that the pay raise to employees is so important because, to reiterate your point, it affects not only their retirement, their APRs, but it also affects their Social Security earnings far down the road.
Yes, it is. And
doing one versus doing the other is not an offsetting penalty. It is a penalizing point for the employees. The thing about health insurance is it's still a train wreck. It's going to be a train wreck for a long time. It's going to be years down the road before anything starts to settle out. We're still seeing double-digit increases, and the charges that providers are passing on to consumers and insurance companies and others. And a lot of this is driven in part by just a lot of different things, from demographics to pharmaceutical cost, and we've all seen the news reports and everything along those lines. For a number of years now, we've struggled with the health plan to try to keep it solvent. There's been recommendation year after year about increasing premiums and adjusting copays and adjusting deductibles and that type of thing. And the court, to your benefit, has staved that off for a long time by putting infusions into the fund. The most recent infusion put into the fund was last year, which was to the tune of about $821,000. We're at a point now where infusions are going to cease to work. You can put $800,000 into the fund, but if you don't adjust the funding mechanism, then you'll see me back again probably in December. We can't do, my recommendations, we can't do Band-Aid approaches any longer. We have got to solve and finally plug the leak, of the overage coming out of the fund, if that answers your...
Yes, sir, it does. You're our advisor. You're probably the wisest one we have for this particular thing, because you've studied it so much and are familiar with where we've been and where we're going. Long term, do you feel that the proposal at 7.1 with these some changes is better than 7.3, equal to 7.3, or lesser than 7.3 overall
overall?
I think, you got to look at it from two sides. From the employee standpoint side, 7.1 is going to be a better plan.
Right.
It's going to cost the county more money from a per position standpoint to do that. So you're in a sharing mechanism now on the funding changes. Yes, there's going to be a premium increase to the employees, but there's also a premium increase that is being handled by the general fund.
Right.
Into this. So I think overall, from my standpoint as your consultant, I would recommend 7.1.
Okay. All right.
I think you're going to have to take a look at this again next year from a deductible standpoint, because as healthcare costs continue to escalate, we're going to have to do some different things as far as manipulation of deductibles and copays, probably again. And I don't mean this to be a negative comment, but this has been something we've struggled with, and some of you guys, have been on the court for as long as I've been around, and you're one of them. And we struggled with this and talked about it every single year about changing the funding mechanism. Well, we're at break point right now.
Yep.
Right now, we're sitting with, I checked the fund balance this afternoon when I got to the courthouse, and we're at $1.98 million in the fund right now. And that's after the $821,000 transfer
Right.
that we just made. And that's where we are. Now, what the claims are going to look like between now and the end of December,
You don't know.
I can only hope that they will stabilize.
Right.
We've had 2 weeks where we've had two very large bills. I believe, Bobby can correct me on this, I believe one of the bills that we got on the week of the 1st was $155,000. The one we got on the 8th was $255,000. Yeah, I'm sorry. But we've paid out, $350,000 plus in 2 weeks in September. So.
Well, with that, good advice. I thank you for all your help and advice over the years. I've moved to pass 7.1 to the full quorum court.
I have a motion to move.
Yep.
Do I have you have a second? I'm going to discussion. J.P. Ecke.
Thank you, Madam Judge. Mr. Driver, I'd like to ask you a question, what this variable would do to 7.1. On 7.2, you're showing an out-of-pocket from $1,000 to $3,000. If we were to keep that at $1,000 instead of the $3,000, and slightly increase the deductible, what would that do to the plan?
Just from memory, from other figures, factoring that in and readjusting that deductible change alone would make an impact to the fund, an overall impact of the fund of about $90,000.
So changing it from $1,000,
it would cost us about $90,000 more
out of pocket to
if we lowered.
$3,000.
I'm sorry.
I'm talking about the out of pocket.
Yes.
The amount that now they have to. It's not the deductible. That's not what I'm talking about.
You're talking about the family out of pocket.
No, I'm talking about number, what would it be, 1, 2, 3, on the third one, out of pocket. You're raising it from the right now, the county employees pay 20%, which is $1,000, correct? Is that the stop loss?
Well, the $1,000 is a stop loss. But right now, once they've met their deductible, we pay 80%. They pay 20%.
And the 20%
up to $1,000.
Up to $1,000.
Up to $1,000, and then their out-of-pocket cost stops at that point.
Right.
And the county's plan picks it up at 100%.
Right.
And then you've got a family resource or stop loss amount as well.
Right.
Individuals, for instance, 1,000, the family would be typically
But
2.
We're asking to increase that stop loss amount substantially.
Yes.
That's going to hurt.
That will make about between $90,000 and $100,000 difference to your fund balance, that one change.
Okay, but if we were to go back to their 20% being $1,000, and the families, what is it currently? If it's an individual for $1,000 stop loss, and the families,
I believe the individual is at $1,000. I don't have those figures in front of me.
It seems to me that is more concern than the higher deductible. The increase in the deductible and prescription costs, that they understand that. But this is a very big horse that you're asking them to swallow, and a lot of them are saying, nay, can't do it. Can we do something about that portion of the plan? And what would it do to the county's portion?
Well, that's what I was saying. If you reduce that, if you keep that at the present level, then you're going to create about a $90,000 shortage.
$90,000 for the year.
For the year. That's conservative, about $90,000.
That's not that bad, really.
Depends on who's paying it, I guess. But
well,
yeah.
if they have to
Sure.
pay it, you're asking them to go to 3,000. It was 6,000.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to the hospital and you're in the emergency room and they say, pay now.
I look at these figures and I look at these plans, from our, not only our peer group but from also industry as well. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I tried to do in developing 7.3 is to come to the most fair approach possible
Sure.
for all parties.
Yes.
Recognizing the fact that, I pay health insurance premiums and co-pays and deductibles just like everyone else, in the room. My deductible, for instance, at the university has jumped 3 years in a row from $500 now to $1,250.
Well, deductibles are deductibles, yes.
Yes, but also, along with that, my out-of-pocket cost increased as well, to a point where I think my individual out-of-pocket cost at the university is at about $3,000 right now that I'm going to have to pay before the plan would pick up and pay at 100%. This is an extremely tough issue, and again, I'm not trying to be negative here, but if this had been handled year after year for the last 16 years, we wouldn't be in the problem that we're in right now.
Certainly, and I understand that, and it's not to be any of your advice and your wisdom, and this is what you do.
Yes.
And I understand that, but I know that there's new circumstances facing this court here today. So everything that is done in the past, sure, it's brought us where we are. So what is the best thing that we can do here for today? The feedback that I'm hearing for the employees is please, 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 can we keep it at something that we can afford, because we cannot afford the $3,000 or the $6,000. And so that is why I brought it up. And I was hoping that you could explain it to us so that way we could make a decision on this.
I think, bottom line, it's going to come down to what the court is willing to do as far as county contribution. That's what it's going to come down to. Trying to keep the premium increases down to the 15% level, is a struggle. It's a real struggle. Trying not to go up in some cases. I believe the first scenario I brought to you guys, the increase was going to be about 30% and 35% in some cases.
Right.
J.P. Lundstrom asked me to take a look at a couple of issues about, well, what if we manipulated the county side and the individual employee side? Because none of these have an increase on the individual employee, the one that's not employee spouse, employee family, that type of thing. Taking the county's contribution from the existing 411 to 500 would, in order to keep the increases at 15% to the rest of the groupings, would create a situation where you'd have to increase the individual plan, the employee-only plan, by a little over 41%. They would go from $74 to about $105 a month, which they would be subsidizing the other part of the pool.
Okay.
If that
So that includes the stop loss.
Yes.
Boy, I would like a quick show of hands of how many would be willing to go up to 105, so that way they didn't have to pay $3,000 when they go to the emergency room, and it's like pay right now, or we can finance for you. Yeah. I mean, that's hard. I thank you for your time. I don't have any further questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Judge. This issue is not part of the legislative duty of this court, and I would like to be recorded as abstaining when the vote is taken. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have any other discussion? We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. I think we need public comment on this. Do we not, Karen? Okay. That's what it says. We have to.
I don't think our code of orders talks about that in resolutions, does it? Doesn't it? Okay.
Okay, I'm going to recognize J.P. Harbison now.
Okay, I think we need to suspend the rules and allow public comment.
Well, if we have, it's
I make a
permissible
motion, we
anyway.
suspend the rules and allow public comment.
Okay. Well, we really don't need that motion because I'm going to recognize public comment anyway.
Oh,
But-
okay.
but-
I just want
Okay.
to make sure.
So, any other discussion from the court? Do I have any public comment?
I'm going to move.
Okay. Ready for a vote. Carly, call the roll.
Rick Cochran,
Yes.
Robert Dennis, Lisa Ecke,
No.
Ann Harbison,
No.
Sharon Lloyd,
No.
Tom Lundstrom,
Abstain.
Eva Madison,
Abstain.
Sue Madison, Joe Maxwell, Gary McHenry,
No.
Joe Patterson,
No.
Butch Pond,
No.
Bill Essery,
No.
Daniel Balls,
No.
Harvey Bowman,
7.1 has failed. So now,
Right.
turn your mic on, please, George.
The only thing I want to
Yes, yes, please do.
One of the things that I just want to remind the court of, regardless of what y'all decide to do or not do, HR has got to know what we're going to do for 2017 before October the 1st, because there's a notification period prior to open enrollment, which starts in November. And, you know, if nothing changes, then we'll go forward with, you know, how the plan is currently right now, which will cause me to have to adjust my budget that I've submitted to the court. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you. J.B. Pond?
I voted no. May I bring this up for further discussion?
You can make a motion to reconsider. if
I
you voted
move to
with the winning side.
reconsider.
He voted no.
No, you're right. It would have to be the person that voted yes.
Would have to have, the only person that voted yes is J.P. Cochran.
I would move to reconsider in case the court would like to pass this on.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the, yes, J.B. Pond?
Yes, ma'am. I don't find fault with Nelson's advice anyway whatsoever. My problem is we need to know what kind of a raise, a pay increase that these employees are going to have in order to afford this. It's and that's where I was hesitant on deciding anything on this tonight. We need to reassure our employees that we're going to give them adequate pay increase to pay
Hang
for their
on
own
just a
health
minute, J.P.
insurance.
Pond.
Yes, ma'am.
We've got a ruling here from the attorney.
Motion to reconsider, I think, is a limited debate, to just talk about whether or not we're going to reconsider it or not. We need to have a vote on the motion to reconsider, and then then it's back on the floor for discussion.
So now, we have a
we
motion
need
and a
to
second to reconsider.
reconsider,
We need a vote on that, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Carly, call the roll for our reconsider.
Rick Cochran,
Yes.
Robert Dennis, Lisa Ecke,
No.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd,
No.
Tom Lundstrom,
No.
Eva Madison,
No.
Sue Madison, Joe Maxwell, Gary McHenry,
Yes.
Joe Patterson, Butch Pond,
Yes.
Bill Essery,
Yes.
Daniel Balls,
Yes.
Harvey Bowman,
It didn't pass. What was the vote count?
6 yeses, 7 noes.
6 yes. All right, so the motion fails. We can't reconsider it. Just one other comment I thought I'd make is that, Nelson said that if we don't get this decided by October the 1st, open enrollment comes in November. The plan will stay as it is. And we'll have to have a special, and when the court decides what it wants to do about this, then we're going to have a special enrollment period again in 2017 once the changes are made.
Yes, J.P. Madison.
Could I raise a point? Because several people have referred to the need for the court to make this decision, yet within the instructions attached to 7.1 and in the resolution itself, it says this is an administrative function of the county judge. The county judge can make this decision tomorrow morning.
Yes, she could, but she can't appropriate the money if it's going to cost more money.
Well, she can make a decision and proceed, and then we'll deal with it. But I don't see the need to involve us again. We're clearly not ready to make a decision tonight.
Well, and I
maybe
mean, if the
tomorrow.
judge makes that decision, then I mean, the funding part of it is still up to y'all. That they're still going to have to be grappled with in budget, and so having said that, right? Okay.
J.P. Ecke.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I just would like the cooperation of our county employees who this affects to email us and let us know what they want. If it's good, if it's as such, or if it's the stop loss, is it the deductible, what is, or if the individual can go up to 105. And if you're ready for that, then we can proceed. It's difficult, and please understand how it is for us to make decisions for your lives and your family's lives. And this is a lot of money when you go to the emergency room and you're asked to pay $3,000, $6,000 right now because you haven't met your deductible. And they're saying, we take it right now, or if not, we'll finance it. And I don't know what their financing terms are. But that's tough. So let us know. Let me know. Let the judge know. Let your department know, however way you want. But we've got to know what y'all are thinking, because we want to make the best decision for you all and not just, well, they're just taking control out of our lives. So let us know. Appreciate it. Thank you.
If all of the court feels like it's best for me just to make the ruling, I will decide on this probably the first of the week, and then y'all can decide if you want to appropriate it or not. J.P. Cochran?
Thank you, Judge. I appreciate you doing that. I think the court has told you they don't want to make that decision. 7.1 does not increase the premiums to the employees at all. It does change some of their copays and deductibles, but their net pay, gross pay, doesn't change a dime, not a nickel, not a penny. I understand the differences between 7.1 and 7.3 quite well. In the employee's best interest, I think 7.3 is better long term because of the effect of the retirement. For someone who's just a couple years away from retirement, it's not going to affect them. But when you look at the average of your pay over years, I would rather give the employees more in their paycheck to offset this cost than to buoy it up and pay for it underneath and subsidize it and not give them as much as pay to give them a better long term. I do understand that we have a lot of people that deal with their net pay every week to make sure they can make their bills. Whichever way you decide, Judge, I'll support you in a ordinance that appropriates any funds. Thank you, Judge.
J.P. Cochran, J.P. Harbison. Did you have your hand? Okay.
My concern is the same that Lisa Ecke's concern is on this 3,000. I know the other one had 6,000, but $3,000 is a lot of money. I mean, for someone that's making,
point of order.
even if you're making $20 an hour.
J.P. Harbison, just a moment. We have a point of order. Hang on. What's your point of order?
Thank you, Madam Judge. This item has failed. I don't understand why we continue to discuss it. We should be moving on.
That's true.
Thank you.
I will have to rule in her favor. Then we will, because we got a long agenda, we will move on with this. I will make a decision the first of next week, and then the court can deal with it as their money sees fit. Thank you very much.
They don't understand.
The next thing we have on the agenda is number 8, J.P. Lundstrom.
Number 8 is an appropriation ordinance increasing the salary ranges for county employees. We talked about this during the budgetary process last year. Mr. Butler, would you read that for us, please, sir?
Yes, I will. And pursuant to J.P. Madison's, I'll read my title only. And I don't remember the exact words you used, Sue, but I think what you meant was we're going to suspend the rules and read these all by title. You did say that. Okay. All right. An ordinance increasing the salary ranges for county employees effective November the 21st, 2016, and making the necessary budget adjustments in the various funds.
Hang on just a minute, George. Get your mic here. There you are. I'm sorry.
Never did like these new mics. I'll start all over. An ordinance increasing the salary ranges for county employees effective November the 21st, 2016, and making the necessary budget adjustments in the various funds for employees falling below the minimum of their grade range.
Now, the whole purpose of this is to increase this salary range by 3% so that if we give a raise, some people will exceed their maximum, and it creates a problem. So we discussed this during last year's budget process. I think I recommended 5%, but somebody recommended 3%, and I'm fine with that. But there's also a $14,000 some odd dollar cost to the county for it to pay people who will exceed their minimum as a result of this. $14,789, but I move that we pass 8.1.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes, J.P. Madison.
Why does Article 3 say that one line item, the medical dental line, is reduced by $20? I don't know what that has to do with this.
So what it is we have one employee who is paid by a grant. There's not any money in the grant to cover the cost of this, so we're going to have to decrease their medical line item to appropriate it to cover this shortage.
I hope they don't spend that $20 in one place. Wow. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any public comment? Call the roll, Carly.
Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis. Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joe Maxwell. Gary McHenry.
Yes.
Joe Patterson. Butch Quan.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Ordinance is passed. The next thing we have is number 9. Mr. Dennis, this is his ordinance. He is not present. Do we want someone else to carry this for him?
Daniel's go.
Judge,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm the
Did not-
co-sponsor on this.
Okay.
I kind of like to get a feeling on what everybody else is thinking. We have another option that's better than this. We're just waiting on some numbers to come back. What we're talking about here, we're looking at something that's going to be better than what we're proposing here. So don't think we're putting it off. We have a better option that's going to be presented to us. So I don't want you to think we're trying to not do anything. What the new one we're looking at is going to give you a better raise, and it's going to be better for all the county employees. So unless anybody wants to talk about this, I'm going to make a motion that we table this to our next meeting until we get some better information.
Actually, Blair is here to discuss this if you
Well,
would like
let's
to
bring
proceed.
Blair down if we could, please.
Blair. Blair, you're recognized.
Blair, can I ask you a question before you start?
Yes.
This is not going to, what you're going to talk about is not going to impact this, I don't think, is it, or is it?
The amount will change.
Okay.
All right. So the percentage, I think the percentage on the ordinance is 4%, I believe.
Blair,
And-
hang on just a moment.
Yes.
We have a motion on the floor to table this,
Okay.
and we have a second on it, so we don't have room for discussion because of that.
We're going to need to vote on that, and then if it fails, then we can...
You said still. Okay. We're going to take a vote if we want to table this, and so let's go ahead and call roll, Carly.
Rick Cochran.
No.
Robert Dennis. Lisa Ecke.
No.
Ann Harbison.
No.
Sharon Lloyd.
No.
Tom Lundstrom.
No.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joe Maxwell. Gary McHenry.
No.
Joe Patterson. Butch Pond.
No.
Bill Ussery.
No.
Daniel Balls.
Floor is open for discussion. You're recognized.
At the last Quorum Court meeting, we made actually a couple meetings. One, the personnel, and then the Quorum Court meeting, made a recommendation for an overall adjustment of 7% because the county overall wages were 7.16% behind the market. The court came back and said, what if we look at the impact of adjustments that are of a higher percentage for those that are further behind the market? And the comment was we need to look at time and position to make sure that we have apples to apple comparison so that we're not necessarily rewarding someone that's further behind but has only been with the county for 1 year. So we went through that analysis and came back with a recommendation, which you had at the last meeting, where we noted each of the employees that were at least 7% or greater behind market and those that were 7% or less behind market. And yes, we wanted to go out and price that for you. So we have 180 employees that are 7% or more behind the market pay variance. And on that schedule, based on a 5.5% adjustment and moving in an upward fashion towards the last couple employees that were about 35% behind market, it's going to cost the combination of that and then 5% for the employees that were 7% or less behind market. The combination of the two is $1,479,548, and that includes FICA and Social Security, right? So that includes FICA and Social Security.
Blair, they're asking that you go over that again.
Okay.
What that entails,
Okay.
please.
Yes. So we had 180 employees of the 570 that were greater than 7% behind market, and we used a schedule of an adjustment for those that were right above 7% behind market all the way up to a couple employees that were close to 35% behind market, and we moved an upward adjustment. And those adjustments range from 5.5 for those who were just 7% behind market to 14% for those that were around 35% behind market. The combination of paying those employees based on that schedule plus the 390 employees that were less than 7% behind market, the combination of those two, making those adjustments, is $1,479,548. Now, when we were looking at the overall adjustment of 7%, that was going to cost the county $2 million. So this comes in less than the $2 million if we were looking at doing a 7% adjustment for the whole workforce, but we were looking at that and not looking at time and position. So this calculates time and position and it adjusts back because, like I said earlier, we're not going to have someone match market and only be in the job 1 year.
Would you take a question now?
Yes.
Okay. J.P. Madison.
Do we have this? Because we have some pay study information in our packet, but I don't think we have this. Do we have this?
As far as the schedule, no.
Okay.
Right.
And then I know I had talked to you about sort of having a multi-year plan.
Yes.
Were you all able to look at that? Because I know that we get hung up on, we're only here for 2 years and we can't do anything for the next year, but I don't buy that. I think we can. I think we could talk about what our plans were. There is always going to be some continuity on the court. So that people could have something to look forward to, because it's hard to do it all in 1 year to catch up with everything. But if everybody knew we were working on it, and I'm also interested in that. I'm not just interested in this next budget. I want to know about 18 and 19 and what we think we need to do. Did you all look at that at all?
I'll be happy to comment.
Okay. Yeah.
So whenever we delay, then the next year's Quorum Court decides what to do, and typically a decision is usually made not to match market. So my recommendation, given that we're 7% behind market and we didn't add to base last year, we've got to match market. And so if we put this off and go for a multi-year program, then that means we're further behind market. We'll make some inroads, but we'll be behind market. My recommendation would be, let's do two things. One, let's go with this plan because it addresses the issue of those who are further behind market. It also looks at time and position, and it comes in less than the overall $2 million that we were looking at on a 7% across the board. Next year, we had a question asking about how do we consider longevity with the county? Because we went with time and position, would we give some kind of credit for time with the county? We worked up a schedule where we were looking at 3 years of employment with the county and a 0.25% adjustment for people with 3 years and a 0.25% for each year up to 10 years, which means that we would be at 2% for those with 10 years of service. And then those with 11 to 15 years, 2.25%, 16 to 19 years, 2.5%, and 20 years plus 3%. This was a way for us to address the longevity with the county, knowing that we went to time and position for the adjustment that we're recommending this evening. This form of longevity would add $417,733. If you wanted to put something off, that would be the recommendation, to put that off until next year. And let's go ahead and get caught up, time and position, get it caught up with the market at the about $1.5 million overall budget increase.
Okay, I'm sorry, J.P. Cochran, Usry.
So if I understand this correctly, it's going to take several years for us to get caught up on this. So it really is a multi-year, because if I'm looking at this correctly, we're giving a 5.5 to 14%, but if you're 30% behind and you get a 14%, that doesn't bring you up to where you need to be. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct.
So it's going to take several years of doing this for some of these positions to bring them closer to in line.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I'm not trying to cut off J.P.
No, he said he was that. Did you say that was all? Yes,
Okay.
I thought so.
Well, I am so confused procedurally. We don't have anything before us to discuss that I'm aware of. J.P. Balls started to talk about an appropriation ordinance in item 9. He moved to table it, then voted against it, and it failed. But we've not read this ordinance. I don't know if Mr. Johansson is speaking in favor of this ordinance or in support of this ordinance or discussing something somewhere else on the agenda. I need a roadmap here.
I think what's that is he's discussing something different than this ordinance. That we got here in front.
So we're no longer on item 9.
Yeah.
Well, we're on item 9. However, our discussion, has led us, it sounds like to me that it is probably we're going to end up having to table this and come back with a new ordinance.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you tabled this particular ordinance.
We didn't. We didn't table it.
No.
The first one we did.
You moved it to this meeting.
Right.
And you asked for a budget for the recommendation that we brought up while this was being discussed at the last meeting.
Okay.
And that's why I'm reporting, because that's what you asked for this particular item.
So right now you're really just making a report. We don't have an ordinance in front of us to act on it this
That's
time.
correct. I'm just reporting to what was brought up about this
Item 9.
particular ordinance.
Well, yeah, we had this, but his report is at variance with this ordinance. He was asked to come back and report, so he is reporting.
What are we going to do about where we are?
Well, we're going to have to. All right, there's been a motion. I need either now at this point in time. I guess I need to read the title, and then number 2, we need some sort of motion.
I'm going to hold up here a minute. I'm going to recognize the sponsor. He got in here. His wife's been in the hospital, and I'm going to recognize you, J.P. Dennis.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I do apologize to the court. we're going to make it through this. My intention was not table, but amended last time. And then we discussed that we would amend it to what Blair's recommendation is. And I consider that a friendly amendment. I accept that. So I would like to move that we accept Blair's recommendation as presented and vote on it tonight. Thank you.
I will second.
Well, there needs to be, I think maybe it's premature for us to do that. I think we need to have, I think we need an ordinance in front of us rather than try to amend it based on his recommendation tonight. I think we need a different ordinance.
Hang on just a minute. Do you have a copy of what you're proposing tonight, Blair? Do you have that in front of you?
9.3. 9.3.
No, I have my notes, but the, yeah, right, the ordinance.
Is it 9?
Is this the page 9.3? Is that the one you're presenting now? Market pay study analysis. That's it, isn't it? Yeah. Sheriff's sitting there shaking his head too.
Yes,
That is what you're proposing right there, right in front of you.
that's correct. And the pricing is what you asked for. Right?
Okay, so the 9.3. So, I'm sorry, George. Go
Well,
ahead.
what I think we should do is that we should table this ordinance and come back with an ordinance that comports with Blair's recommendation to be voted on. Something that more concrete here in writing that we can put in ordinance form so that everybody understands what they're voting on.
So would you need to table 9.1 then?
I would say it needs to be tabled. My recommendation.
Well, no, we already had a motion on the floor, didn't we, for 9.1?
We don't have a motion.
No, we don't have a motion.
I've not even read the title yet. Yeah, there was a motion to table, and it failed. Right.
Can we not just amend this ordinance from where it says the 4.4% and adjust it to what Blair's recommendation is, and then we wouldn't need a table or anything? This ordinance could be written as the same, just amended as what the increase needs to be?
I'm not sure I completely understand what the increase is going to be.
The increase would be what is on 9.3, but he actually brought totals tonight to give you the exact amount of what it will be.
Well, I mean, if somebody wants to make that motion to amend it, they certainly can, but I don't know that this would be the pleasure of the court. If someone wants to vote on it,
I would really like to see us work on this. I don't care how long it takes. Let's try to do something here tonight to move forward. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to try this. So 9.1 is what we have for consideration, but I now understand that 9.3 is the alternate proposal, and the only additional information you've given us is the cost of that.
That's correct.
Okay, so if on page 23 of our agenda packet, 9.3, so if you start with the position title of library director, the recommendation would be a 14% increase. Is that what or do you have this? You don't have this.
I do have it.
Okay, you do have it. Okay. So then going down, there would be 2 employees getting a 14%, then 1 13.5%, and you've got it all the way down on several pages to the end where anybody that was 7% or below deviation from market, they would get a 5%.
That's correct.
Okay. And the cost of that is 1.4.
79. 548.
So to articulate, I think what J.P. Dennis was trying to say, that just to be clear, because I think we can do this, Mr. Butler.
Okay.
I want to do it.
Give it a shot.
Is if we're going to amend 9.1 to reflect the percentage raises delineated in 9.3, and then Ms. Farber, I don't think we actually have a dollar amount associated with this, so that's all we need to do.
We do have a dollar amount.
Oh, well, but 9.1 doesn't have one in it.
No, it does not.
Okay. So if we keep it simple, we just replace the 4% increase in 9.1 with the staggered increases in 9.3. Right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't articulate it well enough.
there was
That's
a motion.
exactly what I wanted.
I was articulating. I think it was his motion.
Yeah,
So
okay.
friendly amendment.
I'm going to recognize my assistant. Karen, you got a question?
Well, I didn't know if Article 2 also needs to be amended because
Yes.
we'll have to change it as well.
Anywhere where it says the 4%, it's going to be replaced by the chart with the variations in the percentage that appear on 9.3. And I wasn't trying to make a motion because I think it should be your motion.
Okay.
So.
He's made a motion, now we need a second.
Daniel Balls?
Second.
Got
Okay.
a co-sponsor. So we got a motion. Do we have any other discussion? Call the roll, Carly.
Yes, we do. Before we vote. No, this is on the amendment. We're just voting on the amendment right now.
Oh, yes.
We're just voting on the amendment. Not yet.
He made the amendment.
We're just amending. Yeah, we still gonna need a vote.
Okay, let's do a vote on the amendment.
Correct.
Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Eki.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lindstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison. Joe Maxwell. Gary McHenry. Joe Patterson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery. Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Okay, now we need a motion.
9.3 has,
Right.
the amendment has passed,
Yeah.
so now we can go to the actual,
We need a motion to pass, but I need to read it. I've not read the title yet.
so 9.3.
Okay. So you moved to pass. Is there a second? Okay. All right. An ordinance to raise the salaries and wages of non-elected county employees by
Various amounts.
Schedule.
various amounts over the 2016 base pay for budget year 2017. Thank you, Sharon.
Sounds
There you
good,
go.
sounds good.
I mean, it's going to be,
Yeah.
to be more official.
So does everyone understand the motion?
14 to 5.
Yes.
From 14 to 5.
Okay, JP Dennis.
I move to pass.
And I have a second. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, we're actually voting on the ordinance itself now. Carly, I'm sorry.
Public
We have
comment.
Public comment.
Public comment now.
You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
For doing an outstanding job.
Thank you, Madam Judge. Thank you, JPs. My name is Lorraine O'Neill. I live at 3001 West Weddington, and I know these budget processes are very difficult. But I think I heard 14% in one case. With the county's budget so stressed as it is, to allocate this kind of a raise for county employees, then I think it's inappropriate for all the clapping that's been going on here tonight, because the citizens of this county are not represented, only the employees. And the citizens are the one who are going to have to carry this burden. And I think that's very inappropriate, and I think this is out of line. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else want to comment? Sheriff.
Well, I live in the county too, and I think the county is represented, and I think that you all recognize that all employees are woefully behind market. I think for the first time, we've actually had a study done to indicate position by position, time and grade, how far behind we are. I think this is exactly the appropriate way to handle this. This is about county services. This isn't about running a private business, you know, where the bottom line is the bottom line. This is about what services do the county citizens expect, and this is what county budgets are for, is to provide that service. So I'm thankful to Blair for kind of stepping out and kind of looking at whoever asked him to do this. I think it appears to be fair. Thank you, Rick. But anyway, I think the county is represented for the first time in a long time. We have stood behind this court as elected officials to try and work on our budget woes. We have gone bare bones year after year on personnel and equipment. I think that we all recognize that our employees are our greatest assets, and I think this is a perfect time to recognize them and give raises where it's adequate. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff. And room for one more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge. I asked for a little pie graph to be made that shows our general fund expenditure category. And if you'll look at your little pie graph, and I'll show it for the people on TV, that big blue Pac-Man there is 68%. It shows 68% of the money we spend in the general fund goes to our employees. That's important. I think, Sheriff Helder, your department would show about the same pie chart. We just got the general fund here. I am really appreciative of Blair and his work. And
yes.
To put this together, it's the best look we've ever had while I've been on the court for what we can do for our employees. A 14% raise for somebody is a big raise. But if you're 35.9% below market, you're only making 65 cents on the dollar for your job. We're not even getting that person up to grade, but we're making an effort. So I appreciate the members of the court in getting behind this, and I'm glad that we're able to do this early in the process this year so we can make the appropriate decisions for funding. Thank you, Judge.
J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I think the folks in this room know that I'm pretty tight with money, and but the time has come for us to do this raise. I am so glad that Blair and the folks in HR have given us the really rich data that we need. I think we struggle with just a flat 5% raise or a 4% raise. This one makes sense. It's based on market. It's time to reward our employees. And we're doing it on the front end of the budget where we don't come back at the last minute and employees take the back seat. It's going to be work for this court, and it's going to be work for all the employees to help us make this budget come together with this increase. But I'm asking the court to make a strong showing tonight how much we value our employees and the need for this raise. And let's have a good, strong yes vote for our employees tonight to make them the priority this budget year, and then all of us come together and figure out how to make this budget work for the county. So let's have a good, solid yes vote in support of our employees tonight.
Got that. We're ready.
Right. I think if there's no more comment on the court, we're ready to vote.
Thank you, J.P. Dennis. And I hope your wife is doing okay.
She'll do all right.
Okay, thank you. The next thing we have is we have removed.
We got to vote. We got to vote.
Call the question.
I thought Carly called the roll.
Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joel Maxwell. Gary McHenry.
Yes.
Joe Patterson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
And the first of the week, you'll know what kind of insurance you're going to have, I promise you. Now, we have made a motion to do away with number 10 right now. We're going to go to number 11, which is our treasurer's report. Mr. Bobby Hill.
Hello, everybody. If I may, just a second on revenue projections. I'm planning on 1 month from today, or the October 20th.
Bobby, can I hang on to you just a second? Okay. I know everyone, they've heard what they've come to listen to, so let's just have a short break, and you can hang on tight right there, and anyone that needs to leave is welcome to go ahead and leave and go home to their families.
I can't believe anybody would want to leave on my report.
Bye, Martha. Okay. Okay, now you're recognized again.
All right, and just a second concerning the revenue projections. I plan on having the final projections 1 month from today. And by final, I mean probably final. Until the last minute, I can, if there's anything major, I will let you know. But October 20th is when I plan on giving out the final packet. Two concerns. General carryover, that's the most volatile line item that I see. Right now, it's still on course, but that does bear watching for me as far as whether I have to reduce it. But right now, it's staying the same. State reimbursements for jail, that line item, we haven't had a substantial payment from the state since the end of July. So if that doesn't change, I might have to reduce those. But as of right now, I'm not. 11.1, just real quickly, General Road and Jail all had expenditures exceeding revenues, but that's not out of the ordinary for August. The next page, we ended August with $31.7 million in the bank. I look back at the same time period in 2015, and we had $31.8 million in the bank. So, of course, I'd like to see this number grow, but we are keeping pace with last year. And just the three sales tax, 11.2, 11.3, and 11.4, all showed slight increases over last year. 11.5, the employee insurance. Nelson went over a lot of that. But yeah, as you can see, we began and ended about the same. And like he said, we have 1.9 in the bank as of today. So any questions?
Any questions, Robbie? As long as the report's good, you can go home.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next thing we have is our comptroller's report. Ms. Ashley.
12.1 reflects our unappropriated reserves for August. You can see there was a few ordinances that were passed. And then I went ahead and added the insurance ordinance. It took place in September, but reflected it on this report. 12.2 is a summary of revenues and expenditures. Everyone should be at approximately 67% expended, and then on the far right is the unappropriated reserves for each fund. Twelve point three is the statement of operations. And again, everybody should be about 67% expended, and then this report reflects encumbrances. And that's all I have. I was wanting to make a comment that, off the subject, I'm not passing out budget worksheets tonight because of the ordinance that was passed with the salary ranges. I knew if I passed out worksheets, they would immediately already be outdated. And we have a ton of adjustments to make to those employees, so those positions. So I will get you all the worksheets by early next week. I'll email them to you, and then we can print them out for your workbook. And also the last thing, Mr. Cochran already mentioned about the chart that he had requested last week that I passed out. And then Mrs. Madison requested that I take each department and calculate their operating totals, and then whoever was 2,000 or more would come before you. And so that is what the yellow highlighted report reflects, is capital, new personnel, and then anyone who falls above $2,000 or above. So those will be the departments we will schedule for you to see. And that is all I have.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Next thing we have is number 13, appropriation ordinance. Mr. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. George, would you read ordinance 13.1 by title?
An ordinance anticipating appropriated revenues in the amount of $23,716 in the county library fund for 2016.
Thank you, George. I move to pass 13.1.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Let's call the roll, Carly.
Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison. Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Yeah. Tom Lundstrom,
Yes.
Eva Madison, Sue Madison, Joel Maxwell, Gary McHenry, Joe Patterson, Butch Pond, Bill Essery, Daniel Balls, Harvey Bowman.
Next thing we have is number 14, J.B. Pond.
Yes, ma'am. George?
3.
Number 14.
An ordinance changing a personnel position in the detention budget for 2016.
It's been discussed in personnel, and I'd moved past 14.1.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Carly, call the roll, please.
Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison. Sharon Lloyd. Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison. Sue Madison. Joel Maxwell. Gary McHenry. Joe Patterson. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Essery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls. Harvey Bowman.
Ordinance passed. 15, which is J.P. Harbison.
An ordinance transferring $86,000 from the road fund to the FEMA fund.
Just leave it on, Jordan.
An ordinance transferring $86,000 from the road fund to the FEMA fund, reducing the FEMA 2015-2016 flood budget by $603,272 and appropriating the amount of $689,272 from the FEMA fund to the Dye Creek Low Water Crossing budget for 2016.
Okay, this is a bridge that was taken out, a low water bridge that was taken out by high water this last spring. And it's a road that's really used a lot by citizens of Westport. And they, FEMA's going to pay for it, so, this is a good thing. We need to get this on the road, so to speak, and get it fixed and rebuilt. Thank you. I make a motion that.
Second.
I make a motion that we pass this transfer of funds.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Roll call, Carly.
Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd. Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison. Sue Madison. Joel Maxwell. Gary McHenry. Joe Patterson. Butch Pond. Bill Essery. Daniel Balls. Harvey Bowman.
Ordinance passed. 16, J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. George, would you read 16.1 title?
An ordinance recognizing and appropriating revenue in the amount of $157,928 in the road fund for 2016.
Thank you, George. This moves some FEMA disaster relief revenue into the road fund gravel, dirt, and sand line item. I move to pass 16.1.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Call the roll, Carly.
Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis. Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison. Sharon Lloyd. Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison. Sue Madison. Joel Maxwell. Gary McHenry. Joe Patterson. Butch Pond. Bill Essery. Daniel Balls. Harvey Bowman.
Ordinance passed. On my report tonight, I did not bring anything forward because we have such a lengthy agenda. The next thing we have is our committee reports. County Services, J.P. Madison.
I'm trying to remember now, but I'm pretty sure we didn't meet for lack of an agenda. My brain's full tonight.
Public Works, J.P. Bowman is not here, so I'm assuming, was there anyone have a report? Well, they did not meet either. Personnel, Butch Pond.
Yes, ma'am. We met Monday, September 6th. We had a report from Mr. Joe Hanson on the JSAP bringing 3 new positions to the court. He described the positions of the Public Relations Director / Personnel Manager with the Sheriff's Department, as well as the Juvenile Officer 2 / specialized police officer and social worker positions with juvenile court. The public relations director personnel manager position will take the place of the current public information officer. And this position has been rated as a grade 23. The budgeting part of this position will be presented to the court, which at the regular quorum court meeting, which is here. The juvenile officer 2 specialized police officer has been rated as a grade 16, and the social worker position rated as a grade 18. These positions will be brought to the court during the budget process. Then the next report was requested by the quorum court was by Blair, was the report we just had before we voted on the raise. I appreciate y'all voting to approve the raise. Then we also, Mr. Johansson brought to us he requested a step schedule be considered for the sheriff's office positions referred to the sheriff's uniform positions document, which gives a comparison for Benton County, Rogers, Bentonville, and Fayetteville to keep us up with them. And we had an ordinance increasing discussion on an ordinance increasing salary ranges for county employees, which we passed this evening. This was brought to us by Tom Lundstrom. Thank you again for that vote. That was the bigger part of what we did at personnel. Thank you.
Jail law enforcement, J.P. Lundstrom.
We did not meet for lack of agenda. Thank you, Judge.
Ordinance review, J.P. Usry.
We talked about several sections that we're going to vote on tonight of the ordinance. We made some changes. There's also a fairly lengthy discussion on the IT policy, and we're still working on that. And there'll be more discussion on that, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next thing is number 19, J.P. Ball.
George, can you read 19.1, please? Yes. An emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit granted by the Planning and Zoning Board.
This is for a dance studio in my district. There was no, yeah, I was like, all right. There was no public comment. There was nothing bad. I don't think there was no citizens or neighbor complaints, so I'm going to make a motion that we pass 19.1.
Second.
What kind of emergency clause?
What kind of dancers?
What's the 6-year-old ballerinas or?
Dance my lease, so I'm assuming the 6-year-old ballerina.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion other than wanting to know what kind of dancers we've got? Any public comment? Carter, call the roll. I'm sorry, J.P. Madison.
I'm stuck on procedural issues. Thank you, Judge. An emergency clause, does that require an extraordinary vote?
Yes. It will require 10 votes to pass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we got it. Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for roll call.
Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison. Joel Maxwell. Gary McHenry.
Yes.
Joe Patterson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Usry.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Ordinance passed. Number 20, J.P. Patterson.
Yes, sir. An emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit granted by the Planning and Zoning Board.
This is one where they want to split the property in less than 2 acres, like 1.7 acres. And that's been grandfathered in because the house has been there a long time.
So I make a motion to move that we approve this.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I did. Yeah,
Any public comment? Call the roll, Carly.
Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joe Maxwell. Gary McHenry.
Yes.
Joe Patterson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Ordinance passes 21. Let's see. J.P. Patterson.
George, you want to read this one?
Yes, sir. An emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit granted by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Would you like to take a shot at the name of this company we're putting in out here?
Juliet?
Make a motion, we approve this. It's
Second. I have a motion and a second.
about a 20-acre piece of property, and they want to put a small business in on it.
Any discussion? Carly? I'm sorry. Yes.
If I may ask, is it just a small business? Because when you say Maquiladora manufacturers, immediately it's an international company? I mean, and they just want to put in what? If you could explain, is it another taqueria?
They do. It is a small business. They're just going to have, I think, less than 5 employees.
Is it a tortilleria?
No, they do a specialized metal manufacturing. Well, they don't make. They make. I think it's like custom housings for very large air conditioning units.
Okay. All right. Well, it just sounds. I mean, when you see Maquiladora,
Right.
you immediately think of the transcontinental agreement that we had with Mexico and Canada. And
They
the
do
Maquiladora.
have. They currently do something similar in Mexico, and then part of their family has moved here, and so they want to try to replicate their business here.
Okay.
That's what we understand.
Okay, thank you.
J.P. Cochran?
Thank you.
Sorry.
How many neighbors were notified on this? I noticed we had some 4 comments against and 1 spoke against, but how many total were?
Nathan will look it up.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think probably somewhere around 10. We can tell you.
Were notified.
Okay, we have 12 so that's about a third of the people were not in favor of this. Your comment in here for screening, as far as the visual, I've not been out at this site, is what they're going to do there, create a eyesore for the neighbors surrounding, or?
I don't think so. I mean, we limit outdoor storage, and it's going to be kind of a large metal building. Should be pretty similar to a lot of agricultural buildings, quite honestly.
Wouldn't be too far from it, that's true.
Right,
Just
and we
a
limit signage.
structural metal building.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
J.P. Madison?
Thank you, Madam Judge. I noticed that all of these tonight have an emergency clause, and the others didn't seem to have a whole lot of substance to them, but this one frankly does. Why the emergency clause?
Well, that's been standard practice to put emergency clause on conditional use permits so that the developer doesn't have to wait 90 days.
Or even 30, yeah. So that they can move forward, but it still doesn't. But it doesn't affect any appeal rights. But we've always done those as emergencies, so the developer can move on.
So he can move on and spend money, and people can still file an appeal, and he could be halted in his tracks. I'm not sure we're doing him any favors.
What we do is we make sure that people understand that it's not finalized till the time to appeal has completely told. So if they spend money before then, it's at their own risk.
They know the risk. Yeah.
Are they able to make changes to the property during that time?
Generally, we discourage people making any changes until we know that it's not going to be appealed, and especially if we think there's a chance of an appeal. On the standard form that we send out, we tell them, that it's not wholly final until that 30-day appeal period's passed. But the difference is it still shortens the time some because it's 30 days. The way the ordinance reads, it's 30 days from the date that the planning board initially approves it, not from here.
Not tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I know the legislature used to almost routinely put emergency clauses on a lot of things to make them go into effect immediately. And there was a court case that said there needed to be a genuine emergency that was identifiable. And so I'm not so sure these emergency clauses, I mean, this is a type of legislation.
Well, and these ordinances are kind of pro forma.
It's just
I feel like that in looking here,
I'll turn that off here.
okay, that one person on the planning board voted against it, and then 4 of the 10 neighbors.
4 of the 10 neighbors vote against it. I don't think we should do an emergency tonight. I think we need to let people know that they can still come before the court. I mean, that's why we put emergency or non-emergency things in a planning, so it can go and be read again. I mean, I'm uncomfortable with one member voting against it on the planning board and 4 of the 10 neighbors in opposition to the proposal. I mean, I just feel like as a court that we don't need to have the emergency on there, that we need to listen to some more people. I mean, it may pass in the end, but I want to make sure that everyone has been given a chance to be able to come before the court. Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone on the court understands that each one of these that we pass is on an emergency ordinance. And I'll say it a different way. It was said a while ago. It's the way that the ordinance that set all this up was done. If we don't do it as emergency ordinance, the landowner, the developer, has to wait 90 days. I'll be voting for it because they still have time to appeal. The neighbors have time to appeal, and the developers know that the neighbors have time to appeal. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Let me ask our attorney. I thought you said without the emergency clause it would go into effect in 30 days. On 3 different nights? Okay. But the particular emergency in this case is just that this is what we always do.
Right, it's been policy to handle them that way. I'm certainly open to talking with Mr. Zaga to see if we should approach it differently in the future. We're trying to do a service for citizens of the county, but I'd say that when we notify the neighbor, we're also notified of tonight's meeting as well. Yes, ma'am. And the same notification. We sent it out.
understand that part about notifying people, but sometimes you can't come tonight. That's why we have 3 meetings, so that someone can come. If we've got 4 neighbors in opposition and you've asked 10, that's almost half.
Well, it was 12. And I will say that we notified 12 individuals, I believe, but that 2 of the comments were on the same property. You know, it just had like a husband and wife. Each submitted a separate comment.
And I understand that. And the other times that we've voted emergency, it's been because you all there have been no negative comments, or all the planning board, zoning board members have voted in favor. And so I'm comfortable with that being an emergency because everyone's checked it out. But I'm not comfortable. I mean, if I was one of those neighbors, I would want someone to stand up for me and say, no, it's not an emergency right now. And then also one of your members voted against it. So that's telling you something. Something is going on that one member would vote against it. I just want to be cautious in it. It's not that I don't want to see manufacturing come to our county or anything like that, but we do have rules and we have emergency clauses and non-emergency clauses for such things as this.
Well, it's totally up to y'all. I was just trying to explain the historical reason.
Mm-hmm. Any other discussion? Any public comment? Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Gillespie?
Yes.
Daniel Ball?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman? Rick Hoffman?
Yes.
Melvin Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecky? Yes. Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
No.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Sue Madison? No. Joel Maxwell? Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Liz Cron?
Yes.
10 votes? Got 10 votes?
The next thing we have is, we had number 22 and 23, and that has been, J.P. Madison, would you explain that again, why those were removed, please?
It was at the request of Mr. Zaga. He's working with the Prairie Grove City Attorney to do some refinements to that one, and I think we still don't know what Goshen wants to do.
Okay, very good, thank you. J.P. Lundstrom?
I talked to Mr. Bedford on the telephone this afternoon, who represents some of those city sewer systems, and he said Goshen would only have one subdivision now that has that system rather than the 3 they used to have.
Okay.
So it's now been reduced to 1, and he said it's very likely that they will just go with their ordinance rather than the county deal.
Okay,
Just
thank
added
you.
information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next thing we have is number 24, and it's from J.P. Ussery. Now, these take 3 readings if we pass them on tonight, or if we want to vote on them at different meetings. So,
Go ahead and read, I'll read it by title only. An ordinance amending Washington County Code sections 2-19 and 2-20.
Okay, I'd like to move that we pass this ordinance and also that we suspend the rules and we read it 3 times this evening.
Have a motion to suspend the rules in place and read it 3 times this evening. Pardon?
Move it to second and third reading by title.
Okay, so, okay. So, all in favor of moving it, let's,
We've got to vote on suspend the rules.
yeah,
If
well,
we're going to place it on second and third reading by title only.
okay. We've suspended the rules. Let's vote on this first one. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Read it by title for the second reading.
Ordinance amending Washington County Code sections 2-19 and 2-20.
I move that suspend the rules and read the 3rd time.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay.
An ordinance amending Washington County Code section 2-19 and 2-20.
Move to pass this ordinance.
Have a motion and a second to pass this ordinance. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Do we have a public comment? Okay. Okay. Do I have any public comment on this? Okay, no comment. So let's
An ordinance amending Washington County Code Section 2-46 through 2-49.
There have been some amendments to this. They're in Pennsylvania red. And I'd like to...
Hang on just a minute. I was questioning myself whether we did. Let's go back. And all in favor of this last ordinance passing on the third and final reading, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, I just want to make sure that I was correct by doing that. So now, the next one is that number 25, George?
25.1.
We just did it last. Yeah.
And I've read it, and 25.1 is what's been substituted, is proposed being substituted in the package.
I'm having a hard time finding. Okay, there we go. This is JP Usry. This is also yours. Okay.
I move that we suspend the rules and we're going to read it 3 times tonight. As amended, there are some sections in red in here that we went through. We amended what we originally did to clarify what was going on here. So it's the court's pleasure whether they want him to read the amended sections or whether he wants to title only. I'm sorry.
Oh, I got you. Okay. So now, are we going to read this by title only?
I've already read it once by title.
Okay, so and we need to take any discussion? All in favor of reading by title only, say aye.
To suspend the rules and place it on second reading by title only.
So,
We need to vote on that.
well, yeah, but I want to make sure there's no discussion on it, so.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the updated 2.51.
I would, y'all can do however you want to, but I really would like to. I think there's some confusion. This is a very lengthy ordinance, so and if we have any confusion and you want to read it by...
No, title only.
We can certainly read it if you want to. So
It's the updated ordinance and not the original 2.51.
Okay.
Correct?
2.1 update.
Updated.
Okay. Has everybody
So-
got that?
I move we accept this 25.1 updated ordinance.
All in favor of accepting the updated, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, now we'll go back and we'll read this 3 times. So, George?
There wasn't a second.
Was there a second? Okay. Basically, that was to amend by substitution. That's what happened. Okay. Now, I haven't read, now we need to vote on the motion to move it to second reading by title only. Suspend the rules and place on second reading by title only. Need a motion and a second.
So you,
By title only.
by title. Now, who seconded that? Okay, Tom seconded it. We have a motion and a second. Okay. Any discussion? Not
No,
yet.
suspending the rules.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Okay. An ordinance amending Washington County Code, sections 2-46 through 2-49. Now we need another motion to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading by title only.
Make a motion to suspend the rules, read third and final.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment?
Well, this is the motion to suspend the rules.
Okay, I'm sorry, we don't have a comment on that one. Hang on just a minute. Yeah, just stay right there. We suspended the rules. Sit down. Okay. So now, let's see, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. So now,
An ordinance amending Washington County Code section 2-46 through 2-49.
we have a motion to pass. We have a second. We have any discussion? Public comment. Now you're recognized, Lorraine.
Thank you. Do I need to identify myself again?
Yes, please.
Okay, Lorraine O'Neill, 3001 West Weddington, apartment 82, here in Fayetteville. And I realize we're having some sound system problems tonight, and I realize that my hearing isn't the greatest, but with all the garbling and the expediting this through quickly, I'm not sure what these ordinances are. I know y'all trying to be expeditious and moving it through quickly, but I'm uncomfortable with just saying that we're going to change the code and that's it and we're going to move on. 3 readings and we're rushing it through, and I'm very uncomfortable with that. Especially since we really can't hear well and everything's all garbled up and everything. So is there any way that we could summarize it somehow and let us know what's going on here?
We could certainly, Eva, if you want to summarize it, that's.
So I'll be happy to explain. These ordinances all went through ordinance review committee. I know. Y'all can't hear us at all. Okay, let me talk about it. I don't know. All of these ordinances went through the ordinance review committee, and they were discussed at length. We are going through and cleaning up the county ordinances, making sure they're compliant with state law. So a lot of it's very mundane. I equate something to an ordinance review committee kind of like watching paint dry, because it's just not that exciting. I mean, no offense, they're doing good work, but it's just tedious, very detailed work. But the two, like for instance, this ordinance 25.1 talks about when county offices are to be open, and they talk about all the elected officials but the coroner. So we added the coroner in. We made the county holidays match the state's holidays, but then there's an issue because apparently the governor always declares the Friday after Thanksgiving to be a holiday, like at the last minute. We didn't want our employees waiting until the last minute, so we made that one deviation from state law. We took out some things about a deferred compensation plan that we don't have anymore. We made clear how the employee handbook applies, and that all employees and elected officials are given a copy, and they're to acknowledge receipt of it. And then we cleared up some issues with hire dates, and when an employee is rehired or reinstated, and when their dates of their employee dates go into effect. Let me see what else we did. Some, I mean, really exciting stuff like how long we retain time cards. So, I mean, it's not, I agree with you that it's ordinance and it's important stuff, but it's not at the level of, of a hefty employee raise or some of the other things we've done. But these were all discussed extensively in our ordinance review committee, and in fact, multiple times, because we spent more than one meeting kind of poring over these to try to get our ordinances current. So these last two things that have felt a little rushed have felt rushed to you because we have spent a lot of time on them already.
Oh, yes.
So I assure you there are changes that were very thoroughly covered with the county attorney and multiple pairs of eyes looking at them. We try to make sure our ordinances comply with state law and all that other good stuff. So I hope that helps. They're all getting tired. Okay, we're ready for did you get that? Yes. Okay, so that last vote was to adopt it? Yes. Next thing we have is number 26. Thank you both.
We're also competing with major employers in this area. This is a way that we can recruit and retain great employees to work in county government. I've had a lot of discussions with public officials and elected officials. They're all behind us. They think it's a great tool, great people in it on the workforce. And I've talked to Lindsay about what happens when people go on and leave. Nobody is bringing in extra help, so we're not going to see an increase in money from right hand after. You guys saw the email that Lindsay sent out about what this is going to cost. I did some numbers today. If it's $100,000, it's 3% of our personnel budget. So what we're telling our employees, what we're going to give on the return, I think is a great investment we're going to make for our county employees. If we got great employees, we got happy employees, it's great for everybody in the county. And we get better product for our employees. So I'm going to make a motion that pass on 26.1.
Thank you, Judge. I did read Lindsay Huffaker's email, and that in her comment, she said that if we spend this $110,000, which is approximate because last year we had 15 or 18 employees that took this, that's only 3% of our 570 employees. And so I feel like that we're not doing something for even a mass majority of our employees. But her comment was that this paid parental leave time will reduce the amount of turnback for the position at the end of the budget year. And this is something that has always shown up at the budget at the end of the year. I checked with several employers in the county, and no one's doing this. Springdale Schools, which is who I'm work for, you have to have your monies to take off maternity leave for sick days, and then if you don't have that amount, then you've got to pay for your subs. And so I just feel like that tonight we've given a $1.5 million raise, approximately $1.478 million raise to our employees tonight, and I was proud to do that. But I just think this is some way that it's not being a leader. What it's being is, I think it's being irresponsible with our monies. We're trying to do something for insurance, and there comes a point when we just have to say, enough is enough. And this is not the way the country is going. This is a way that Mr. Balls says that the country is going, but with the several employees that I checked into, none of them are doing this. And so I'm not sure that we need to jump in feet first and do this. I know that there is short-term disability out there for pregnant women or people that are going to have children, and I just don't think it's the county's responsibility for us to do this paid parental leave at this time when we're all under a dire need of trying to save money anyway. As far as I'm concerned, this is how cities and counties, they cannot provide the services that we're supposed to provide for because we're taking up other benefits that only benefit a few. 3% of the county employees is not enough for us to spend $110,000. And I know what J.P. Balls is saying, that it's already budgeted, but Mrs. Huffaker said that we want this turn back to the budget at the end of the year, and it's something that has been counted on. So I will be voting against this tonight, and I don't think it's something that the county wants. I don't think they want us to pick out 3% of our employees of 570 and giving them 8 weeks paid time off. Thank you.
I support Justice Balls and commend him on the research and the months that he did this research. And like he said, we're going to be the leaders, and Washington County is going to lead in this in the state because this is a trend that America is going in, and I applaud it.
The next generation is our future, and we have to invest in that generation. Justice Eva Madison brought up the point that I wasn't aware of, that daycare does not accept children until they're 6 weeks old. I didn't know that. But what I do know is that I had to go back to work 2 weeks after my first baby was born, not by choice. And I worked for Continental Airlines, and they said, I don't care. You need to come back to work. And then you had to be weight checked to make sure that you were the appropriate weight to get back on the line. Going on a 2-day trip, it was awful. I missed my baby. I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown. Doing this, and as a brand new grandmother, I shared this with my son, who had only 5 days vacation left, and he says, it's tearing me apart leaving my baby daughter at home. Now, my daughter-in-law has 6 weeks. She says, but Lisa, I already took a week and a half or a week before the baby was born, and now I'm going to have to go back, 5 weeks after she's born. Babies are our next generation, and we need to invest in them. I think this is a great investment. And if we have moms that have an opportunity to heal and to bond with their babies, they're going to be so much better, because I was a basket case for 6 months after my baby was born. And Ms. Huffaker had to go back to work 2 weeks after her son was born. And it was tough. So I applaud you, Justice Balls, on doing this, and I support you 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. I'm really excited about this proposal, and I'm glad that J.P. Balls brought it forward. The Channel 5 interviewed me right after we passed it out of personnel, and I joked, I said, well, J.P. Balls proposed 2 weeks, and the women upped it to 8. So it's a good thing he brought it to us. I think the moms on the court said, wait, well, that's not quite enough. Those of you that were here for personnel heard me tell my story, and I'm going to tell it a little bit better tonight. But my son was adopted in 2009, and at the time, my law firm offered very generous maternity leave, 12 paid weeks. 12 paid weeks, that's a lot of time. It didn't even occur to me that as an adoptive mother that I would be treated differently. But when I notified Human Resources that my son had been adopted, I was congratulated that I would get 2 weeks of paid leave, because I had not given birth, and I was different, because the 12 weeks was based off of medical need. And I called some mom friends of mine, and I said, does it really take 12 weeks to recover from pregnancy? And some of them were like, well, with a C-section, it'll take you a little bit longer, but no, people can be back to work pretty quick. So I thought, well, what are those 12 weeks for? And what I realized as the employment lawyers in the room was that to give 12 weeks based on a non-medical need was to require it to be given to fathers too. And then there was this rub about how to have everybody out for babies all the time. And so the firm eventually, I sort of pushed on them a little bit. The firm changed it, and now it's 12 weeks of primary caregiver leave, which is exactly the way J.P. Balls' proposal is written. And so you don't necessarily have to give it to both the mom and the dad. You give it to one or the other, depending on who's the primary caregiver. But as someone who had a brand new baby at home and realized, oh my gosh, I'm either going to have to figure out how to fund myself that I had not prepared for 12 weeks, or I'm going to have to figure out something to do with my brand new baby that I could not get into a daycare. And I toured daycares, and I cried. I remember going to Central Methodist that was open at the time, crying, because I thought, how could I leave him at this place? How could I do that? But I had a great mom who's about to cry. Sorry, I didn't mean to make her cry. And she helped me through it, and I worked from home and had great support. Nobody should have to do those kind of things, though. I mean, being a mom is supposed to be a great thing. Being a dad is a great thing. And the financial stresses of it are already bad enough with all the baby equipment you have to buy and thinking about college and all that. So this is a small thing that we can do. And this is not for 3% of the employees. This is for all of them. All of us face parenting issues at some point, probably. Some of us maybe are past it, but this is a great thing we can do. And I talked to employees who said, you know, we've been managing, but what happens is you use all of your leave time. You use all of your sick leave and all of your vacation, and then some of it's unpaid. And what do you need when you have a baby? A little bit of time to go home to take care of a sick baby. And so this is a great thing we can do for our employees. It does not cost a lot, and this is the way the country is going. I deal with employers all the time, and if you can pay for it, you should do it. And this is a way to reward our working families. Giving good paternal leave benefits ensures that people come back to work. Because if you're not being paid, odds are you're probably not going to come back. But if we give you that time off and reward you while you're gone, you're going to come back and be a better parent and a better employee for us. So we need to do this for our employees, and I'm so glad that it's up for consideration.
Thank you, Judge. And thank you, J.P. Balls. I want us to remember the bottom line of who this will benefit the most, our babies. This is saying that Washington County values our children, values our newborn children. It's hard coming into this world brand new. And if mama's stressed or if daddy's stressed, let me tell you, those babies can sense it. And it's not a happy time when babies sense stress. This allows for good bonding between the new babies and their parents. It allows them to have a good, smooth start in life with proper care, with attentive caregivers, not frazzled people trying to lay in bed and work on a computer while the baby's in a crib next to them. And that's important to this whole country, that we know we have to value our babies. Think of that time when a mother can be breastfeeding. It's crazy to be at work trying to pump in a bathroom stall to take home so your baby can have the benefit of breast milk. We're letting these parents, these mothers, have that choice if that's what they want to do for the good of their babies. So parenting can be a very, very stressful endeavor. And anything we can do to make it smoother for our employees, smoother for our babies, for our children, is going to benefit all of us. And I'm so proud of Washington County for having thought of this and having the courage to do it, because it is the right thing to do. Thank you.
The opportunity for us to do something for our younger employees, because we look at our older employees and, what they've contributed. And I think this helps our younger employees. And I did talk with Lindsay and said, that the people involved in this were really excited about it. So I am going to support this. Thank you.
I defer.
For a man with 3 daughters, 8 granddaughters, I'm for it. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. The reason that I am opposed to this is because of the 3%. I mean, I'm a mother and a grandmother also, but there comes a time when we cannot just keep giving out the monies, because the next thing we're going to be asking for is we're going to be asking for the whole county to do a raise or a tax increase. So I have to be, a tax increase. And so I think that sometimes we have to make the tough decisions. And tonight, I think this is one of the ways that I'm making a tough decision, that I'm saying, no, we just can't keep spending all of the taxpayers' money when it does only affect 3% of our employees. And when there is short-term disability available, and when 6 weeks with your baby, it is a good time, but there's still other times. And so I just don't feel like that the burden for 3% of the employees should be on everyone for the county. And so that's why I do oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to be voting against this, and it's not because I'm against anybody or anything, but I agree 100% with Ms. Lloyd, and that is that this is a tremendous amount of money. When we fought as much as we fought the last year to get our budget in line, I feel like that this is for the small amount that we get for this. I think that, and that's not belittling anybody, and that's not anything. I mean, I've got 4 kids, I've got grandkids, And I understand the parenting bit real well. But again, there's vacation time and there are other ways to skin this cat. And I think we've gone from nothing to 100 miles an hour, and maybe someplace in the middle might be a better place to start. I feel like we're biting off an awful lot with what we've already passed tonight. It's going to be hard to pay for this, and I hate it. But I think I wouldn't be responsible to do what I was called to do on this, being responsible for the finances for the county if I voted for this. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. You're too old like me. I'm going to hit you.
I don't have very much to say, but I agree with Mr. Ustry. There's vacation time that can be used, which is paid. There's sick leave time that can be used, which is paid, and could be used for that specific purpose. I don't know whether we'd need to alter an ordinance somewhere to do it or not, but I think all of our employees get like 14 or 21 days, considerable amount of sick leave, and it can be accrued over the year. So some of them would have plenty of time in sick leave to do that if they so desired. So anyway, I think that would be the better way to do it this year anyway. Thank you.
Okay, J.P. Balls.
I want everybody to realize this impacts, mine's not working. It impacts more than the.
It's working now.
Does this one work?
Yeah.
Okay. This impacts everybody. The 3%, that's just the ones that took it. Those are the people that had a kid. That's all that's it. And I know that this does not impact every employee of the county, but I think it sends a message to our employees. We're trying some stuff that's a little bit different. We've tried the raises and the health insurance. I want them to know we're trying other stuff that maybe hasn't been tried before. I talked to some people in the county who have had kids, and I didn't really know what to say when they said I was gone for 12 weeks, and then when I came back, I had to catch up on my insurance at double the rate. I used up all my sick time. I used up all my vacation time. So I came back. I was paying double insurance until I was caught up, and then I was taking time off to take my child to the doctor. That was also unpaid. This is not a handout. This is a benefit of doing a job, just like you get vacation, just like you get sick pay. That's what this is. I really believe that this is where the country is going to this. We're seeing this more and more. We're not seeing it here in our area yet, but it's coming. And I think that this is a great chance for us to say to our employees, we're trying. We want you to be happy. We know that we could be doing more. And I think this sends a great message also to our community to say we want to make that investment in our families, in the community. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Yes, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I move to sever the emergency clause from this ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to sever the emergency clause. Any discussion on this? Okay, let's vote on it if we want to sever. Do a roll call, Carly. I'm sorry, J.B. Pond.
No, make that clear. You're severing the emergency clause, which that means.
It would leave it. It would be today. It would just be on first reading. We'd have to read it.
Okay, thank you.
At least once, one more time, if not two more times.
So, and that would be tonight, or will we?
Well, tonight, but I guess would be the first reading. I don't think
Okay.
the emergency clause would disqualify.
Carly, call the roll, please.
Rick Cochran. Robert Dennis. Lisa Ecke.
No.
Ann Harbison.
No.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joel Maxwell. Gary McHenry.
Yes.
Joe Patterson.
Yes.
Butch Bond.
No.
Bill Ussery.
No.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
It takes 2/3, doesn't it?
No, it just takes basically you're amending the ordinance. It just takes a simple majority of those present to amend the ordinance.
Did we get it?
So it passed.
Well, it passed. 75 it passed. Majority of those present.
So did we?
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I stripped off the emergency clause because it takes an extraordinary majority, is why I did it, if nobody understood that. So I appreciate the help I got in stripping that off. And I realize it will take 3 readings, but I think we can get it done in 3 readings. Thank you.
So now, where are we now, George?
okay, well,
Are we voting on the removing the emergency clause?
we just voted on removing the emergency clause.
But now
Going to make a motion to read by title only.
it's already done, you already done that.
Are we going to have to do the 3 readings, 3 different meetings?
Aye. Well, I mean, if you want to vote, make a motion to suspend the rules and take, I used it on second and third reading, but with the
All right, I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules, read by title only.
second reading by title only.
Second reading by title only.
I'll recognize her.
Excuse me, don't you have a motion on the second to remove?
We've already voted on that. The emergency clause has been removed. So now, there's been a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place it on second reading by title only, which requires 10 votes.
Yes, go ahead.
If it were to get a simple majority of the court and pass, what's the difference in it affecting the benefits in terms of timing? Because I would hate to think that it passes on a simple majority tonight, but then because of the lack of the emergency clause, employees miss out.
It will be 30 days from the date of publication if it passes without emergency order, which we get these things published how quickly can?
No.
If it passes just as a regular ordinance, it's not in effect until 30 days after publication.
And publication
So you're talking about
happens
5 weeks. Takes about a week before it gets published.
So it'll be 5 weeks before it goes into
Right.
effect.
And so
as opposed
those
to emergency clause
employees-
goes into effect immediately.
Okay.
So somebody would have to.
So there could be some people who fall through the cracks. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted clarification on that, but
So now we are ready to vote to suspend the rules and place it on the second reading with by title only. Carly, call the roll, please.
Rick Cochran.
No.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
No.
Tom Lundstrom.
No.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joe Maxwell. Gary McHenry.
Yes.
Joe Patterson.
No.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
No.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Doesn't have to have
To
that.
suspend the rules, it requires 10 votes.
Of those present, though? Is it a?
I think it's the entire court. So the entire court what the statute says. That's what favored. We were attempting to suspend the rules and place on second reading by title only. So now, it'll automatically be on second reading next month, or our next meeting.
So that's done for the night?
Right.
Okay. Number 27. I'm sorry.
Courtney had wanted to make a comment, and I'd like to move to suspend the rules and allow her to make that remark because she wanted to speak on this issue, and because of the way it turned out, she didn't get to, and she's here tonight, so I think we should do that.
Second.
Okay, and apparently Ms. O'Neill would like to as well, so I think we should move to suspend the rules to allow public comment on this issue.
I agree.
Okay, so we're suspending the rules. We have to allow for comment. Courtney, come on, honey.
Need to vote?
Okay, all in favor of suspending the rules, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign? Okay. Courtney, identify yourself.
Yes, thank you. My name is Courtney McNair. I work for the planning office, and I just want to say this affects more than the 3%. I'm done having children, so personally, I will not benefit from this in the sense that I will get 8 weeks paid. However, I have been there, and I've had children where I had to cover it with vacation and sick time, and I eliminated every single hour I had while I was on maternity or unpaid FMLA leave I covered with the sick and vacation time that I had accrued. The first child I had managed to save 7 weeks, and the second one I'd only managed to save 5 weeks. Cumulative, because they were 2.5 years apart, and you have to build up some time, and you have a sick child to take care of occasionally, and doctor's appointments for yourself to follow up. I would like to say, though, that to have my coworkers who may have children in the future be able to come back to their job and not have that stress, where I sat there and I would stress and I would count hours and I'd come in early and I would stay late just to try and make up hours because I knew my kid needed to go to the doctor and get its shots. That's not okay. And so to work with people who will not have to choose, the stress of being a new parent and having to try and budget that kind of time on that kind of shoestring budget will be an immense benefit, not just to the people who are receiving these 8 weeks paid, but to our coworkers who then have happier coworkers. And as I had a very lengthy discussion with Mr. Balls about this is the kind of extraordinary benefits that we have not seen lately that have been taken from us. And so when you guys introduce bills like, your ordinances like this brings back our confidence. Man, like I said, I'm not going to get the 8 weeks paid because I've had 2. I'm good. Those are my boys. But this is the type of benefit that brings confidence to your employees. It shows that you care. It's a very small cost, but it affects all of us because everyone has this confidence that their coworkers are not going to be under the same strain coming back as a new parent. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Lorraine, I'm going to go ahead and recognize you too because we suspended the rules.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I appreciate that. I appreciate y'all allowing us to make a comment on this. I realize you stepped outside the bounds. And I agree with J.P. Lloyd, J.P. Lundstrom, and J.P. Ushery on this. This is extraordinary, and it's wonderful that it's even being considered. And yes, I'm sure it makes that 3% of employees who will benefit from this extremely happy. But loyalty is a very tenuous thing, and they may be happy today, and then they may find a job somewhere else that pays more, and that loyalty is gone out the door. And this sets a precedent for those employees who are not in that group of childbearing, sets a precedent of them to say, well, look what you gave them. I want something comparable. And I think it's an inappropriate ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Juliet, you're recognized.
I just want to say, as a manager, I feel like this is a really good benefit. This is something that you can use to attract people. And I've had 2 children too, and it is tough. I worked through both of my time off with my kids, and I came back at 8 weeks and 9 weeks, and worked from home so I could try not to exhaust every bit of my time. And I was fortunate to have bosses that would work with me to do that. But it is stressful, and it's stressful for everyone. And it's even hard. It was even harder for me to watch Courtney and some of my other employees struggle with it. And also, I think, there's a lot of discussion about cost. And I hadn't seen this email from Ms. Huffaker, and maybe this is something we could talk about more. But all of this is not real cost. This is a weekly productivity cost. And to me, if you're going to assign a weekly productivity cost to this kind of thing, then you should also be considering productivity cost in regard to benefits that you're giving people, increased morale, and things like that. I think, to me, this seems one-sided to assign a productivity cost to time taken, okay? Because it's not a real dollars cost like they were saying in regard to the budget. So, I don't know. I am not a leave or HR expert, and maybe Ms. Madison could explain it better. But to me, it seems like they're showing a productivity cost or value a benefit value for one side of this issue and not both. So,
Thank you, Juliet. Okay, so now we are, where are we, George?
We were, the ordinance didn't pass, and we allowed public comment, and public comment is over, then we can move on to the next.
Next thing on the agenda. Number 27, JPS 3.
Yes, this is just cleaning up this ordinance a little bit because it was discovered that without any conditions on where the animals were to be kept when they were supposed to be kept in a pen, that there were some pretty ridiculous things out there. And so what we're trying to do is bring this in line with the U.S. Department of Agricultural standards. And so we've added the underlined sentences here. And so I move that this be read by title only, please.
An ordinance amending Washington County Code Section 2.7-23B.
Okay, and I move that this be passed as read.
Okay, we'll need to suspend the rules and read it by title only, do the second reading, and then suspend the
Okay,
reading.
I move we suspend the rules and read by title only, second time.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of suspending the rules and placing it under the title only, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Okay, George, will you read this for us again a second time?
Ordinance amending Washington County Code Section 2.7-23B.
Okay, I move that this, we suspend the rules and read this the third time.
By title only.
For the title only,
By title only.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. No.
That takes 10.
Okay. I'll call on this last one. Okay. Okay, Carly did the roll call. We've got to have 10 votes on that. He was running out of oxygen.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis? Lisa Ecke?
No.
Hannah Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
No.
Tom Lundstrom? Oh, sorry. Eva Madison?
No.
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joe Maxwell? Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
No.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Essery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
We just got 7 votes.
So,
It, this is, the motion fails to move it on to third reading. by title
so
only.
it'll have to come back next.
Right.
Okay. So we'll have to come back next.
So we did read it actually twice.
Right.
So it's got one more reading to go.
Is there any other business to come before the court? Do I have a motion to,
Motion we adjourn.
do I have a?
Did the sheriff have an issue? Did you want to say something?
Thank you guys for staying and being so patient. It's been a lengthy evening. I do appreciate you.